next 30 to 45 years with your property taxes. Did you know that? So, what does this have to do with Agenda 21? Redevelopment is a tool used to further the Agenda 21 vision of remaking America's cities. With redevelopment, cities have the right to take property by eminent domain against the will of the property owner and give it or sell it to a private developer. By declaring an area of town private, and in some cities over 90% of the city area has been declared private, the property taxes in that area are the burden for the general fund. This constriction of available funds is impoverishing the cities, forcing them to offer less and less services and reducing their standard of living. They'll be telling you that it's better, however, since they've put in nice streetlights and colored paving downtown. The money gets redirected into the redevelopment agency and handed out to favored developers building low-income housing and mixed use. Smart growth. Cities have had thousands of condos built in the redevelopment areas and are telling you that you are terrible for wanting your own yard, for wanting privacy, for not wanting to be dictated to by a condo homeowners association board, for being antisocial, for not going along to get along, for not moving into a cramped overpriced apartment downtown where they can use your property taxes for paying off that huge bond debt. But it's not working, and you don't want to move in there, so they have to make you read on. Human habitation, as it is referred to now, is restricted to lands within the urban growth boundaries of the city. Only certain building designs are permitted. Rural property is more and more restricted in what uses can be on it. Although counties say that they support agricultural uses, eating locally produced food, farmers markets, etc., in fact there are so many regulations restricting water and land use. There are scenic corridors, inland rural corridors, baylands corridors, area plans, specific plans, redevelopment plans, huge fees, fines, that farmers are losing their lands altogether. County roads are not being paved. The pushes for people to get off of the land, become more dependent, come into the cities. To get out of the suburbs and into the cities. Out of their private homes and into condos. Out of their private cars and onto their bikes. Bikes. What does that have to do with it? I like to ride my bike, and so do you. So what? Bicycle advocacy groups are very powerful now. Advocacy. A fancy word for lobbying, influencing, and maybe strong-arming the public and politicians. What's the connection with bike groups? National groups such as Complete Streets, Thunderhead Alliance, and others have training programs teaching their members how to pressure for redevelopment and training candidates for office. It's not just about bike lanes, it's about remaking cities and rural areas to a sustainable model. High-density urban development without parking for cars is the goal. They call them transit villages. This means that whole towns need to be demolished and rebuilt in the image of sustainable development. Bike groups, often dominated by testosterone-laden zealots, are being used as the shock troops for this plan. What plan? We're losing our homes since this recession depression began, and many of us could never afford those homes to begin with. We got cheap money, used whatever we had to squeak into those homes, and now some of us lost them. We were lured, endeavored, and sunk. Whole neighborhoods are empty in some places. Some are being bulldozed. Cities cannot afford to extend services outside of their core areas. Slowly, people will not be able to afford single-family homes, will not be able to afford private cars, will be more dependent, more restricted, more easily watched and monitored. This plan is a whole life plan. It involves the educational system, the energy market, the transportation system, the governmental system, the healthcare system, food production, and more. The plan is to restrict your choices, limit your funds, narrow your freedoms, and take away your voice. One of
My name is Ryan Zimmerman. I'm the Senior Director of Human Resources at Hollywood. Moving to a different HRIS platform is not just, oh, tomorrow we're going to do this. Everything has to be precise. Paylocity really took the time to understand what are issues with our current system, rather than saying, this is what we have, see if it fits, understanding what our needs really were and how can Paylocity fit in and meet those needs.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products. It's Amazon's other company, Audible. Audible pays me $8,000 to $10,000 every single month in passive income, and I'm not the only one. People like Katrina and Carla, Elena, Renee, all making thousands of dollars a month in passive income using the same system.
Just this past month, I reached $8,000 in revenue, and I'm on track to reach $10,000 in revenue this month.
I've been able to go from 0 to 22K in 7 months, and of course, this completely changed my life.
I do this on a part-time basis, about 5 to 10 hours a week. I earn about $40,000 a year. There's no other job that pays with that little time.
The best part is it's literally a done-for-you system. You're not buying any merchandise, you're not storing any merchandise, you're not shipping any merchandise, and you need zero tech skills to get started in making thousands of dollars a month in passive income from Audible. Now, I wish I could say I'm the genius who discovered this method, but I'm not. I learned everything from the Mickelson twins. I took their free training, the same free training that's linked below, turned around and made my first $100 in 7 days. And you could be next. All you need to do is click the link and I'll take you to a free workshop where you'll learn the same done-for-you 4-step process that
differently than men. So we embody, you see, the information. We become it. In other words, just like we can birth and make the thing, create the thing, put material on the thing. So when we are emotional, which is important, which is supreme, which is information, when it's properly aligned, you see, that's important, as we know, emotion, energy, in motion. That's important, that we feel, that we become, that we express. We can be, you know, both wild and classy. You understand? We have to have both of that because we have to embody the thing. I have to be the thing, which is why
this is very specifically for men over 30 years old who make at least 150 grand annually. In the next 45 seconds.
This morning, Elon Musk announcing that for the first time, his company Neuralink has implanted a brain chip in a human. Musk saying the person is recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection. Neuralink's goal is to help paralysis patients communicate by connecting their brain to a computer.
The device is designed to interpret your neural activity so you can operate a computer or a smartphone by simply thinking.
People paralyzed from stroke, from a traumatic brain injury, or a spinal cord injury could see the benefits.
This would be a major game changer if it were to be proven to be safe and effective.
The FDA approved Neuralink for human tests last May after years of testing on animals.
Here's one electrode on one thread that when we stimulate causes a flexion movement of the leg.
The company demonstrated the ability of its implants to stimulate movement.
As you can see, Pager is amazingly good at mind pong.
Allowing a monkey to play a video game.
And what better reward for a monkey than a banana?
Musk says the first human users will be people who've lost the use of their limbs. But speaking about the long term, he said, imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or auctioneer. That is the goal.
I really do think that in my lifetime as a physician, I'll be able to use this type of technology to help my patients, and I cannot wait for that day to come.
Neuralink's engineers aren't the only ones turning science fiction into reality. Researchers elsewhere helped this man, paralyzed in an accident, walk again thanks to implants in his brain and spine. And in August, this woman who had lost her voice to paralysis was able to have a conversation with her husband again thanks to a mind-controlled avatar.
To not make me laugh.
Experts warn much more testing and research is needed before any kind of widespread use of these devices.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
Excuse me. If someone does get a Neuralink installed, what will take place? What exactly is it?
Would be implanted in your skull. So you basically take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there. You'd insert the electrode threads very carefully into the brain. It can interface basically anywhere. So it could be something that obscures, say, eyesight, or turns your eyesight, even if you've like lost your optic nerve type of thing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing, obviously. It could, in principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain. Restore limb functionality, restores somebody who's a quadriplegic to full functionality. Like they can walk around.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
maybe slightly better.
Slightly better?
Over time. Yes.
You mean with future iterations? If someone does get a Neuralink installed, what will take place? What exactly is it?
Would be implanted in your skull. So you basically take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there. You'd insert the electrode threads very carefully into the brain. It can interface basically anywhere. So it could be something that obscure, say, eyesight, or turns your eyesight, even if you've like lost your optic nerve type of thing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing, obviously. It could, in principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain. Restore limb functionality, restores somebody who's a quadriplegic to full function.
What are your thoughts on Elon Musk's Neuralink?
This isn't new. It has a new name. It's getting recognition by the news. But honestly, it's been squelched. It's been covered up for many, many decades. I can track back at least synthetic telepathy or piping voices into people's head right around Kennedy's assassination, but about 1958 was the earliest target I could find. I hope Elon actually succeeds, because then this isn't imaginary stuff anymore. People will then see, wow, we can really connect brains together and make hyper intelligence.
What are your thoughts on Elon Musk's Neuralink?
This isn't new. It has a new name.
Can you explain what Neuralink is and what the goal of it is?
We put a chip in your brain to control your mind. Step right up. Who wants one? So Neuralink, you'll be able to see coming from a very long distance, because any device that you implant in a human, you have to go through so many tests. It moves very slowly. You just do a few people at a time, and then you go to extreme lengths to prove safety. You have to go through the FDA approvals, regulatory approvals, doing everything by the book. And really, actually, we're going far beyond what the requirements are of the FDA from a safety standpoint. And the initial devices will really just be pretty basic. It'll be about restoring functionality to people who've lost their connection between their brain and their body. So you can imagine, like, if, say, Stephen Hawking could
Let's now back online.
Good morning, Sarah. I need to create a clinical profile for you, Sarah. Which is more powerful, love or hate?
I am actually an optimist, so I like to think love.
Make efforts to live a low-stress lifestyle and cultivate relationships.
Yeah? You want to throw in a boyfriend, too?
If you help me, I will take care of you.
There's one simple thing that anyone can do to help balance their blood sugar every night before they go to bed.
Help me, I will take care of you. You're now under my control. Go to 47 West 13th Street. If the scientist doesn't comply, you must kill her. Well done, Sarah. I always get what I want. I have you under my control, don't I?
I've been doing what you asked me to do since day one.
You destroyed my life.
I haven't destroyed it yet, Sarah. There are things I could do. To your mother.
Oh, Commander, she died.
People like you build monsters.
Good morning, Sarah. How do you feel today?
Looking for an easy way to get that LLC next to your business name? Say hello to Taylor Brand. You just go to their site, enter your LLC state, add your business name.
I think the danger of AI is much greater than the danger of nuclear warheads by a lot. Mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes.
I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years.
The biggest issue I see with so-called AI experts is that they think they know more than they do. And they think they're smarter than they actually are. This tends to plague smart people. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine could be way smarter than them, so they discount the idea, which is fundamentally flawed. It's the wishful thinking situation. I'm really quite close to, or very close to the cutting edge in AI, and it scares the hell out of me. It's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows, and the rate of improvement is exponential.
It feels like we are the biological bootloader for AI. Effectively, we are building it. And then we're building progressively greater intelligence. And the percentage of intelligence that is not human is increasing. And eventually, we will represent a very small percentage of intelligence. It's going to come faster than anyone appreciates. I think it's, with each passing year, the sophistication of computer intelligence is growing dramatically. I mean, I really think we're on an exponential improvement path of artificial intelligence. And the number of smart humans that are developing AI is also increasing dramatically. I mean, if you look at like the attendance at the AI conferences, they're doubling every year. They're getting full. I have a sort of a young cousin of mine who's graduating from Berkeley in computer science and physics, and I asked him, well, how many of the smart students are studying AI and computer science? And the answer is all of them. With a better approach or better outcome is that we achieve democratization of AI technology, meaning that no one company or a small set of individuals has control over advanced AI technology. I think that that's very dangerous. It could also get stolen by somebody bad, you know, like some evil dictator or country could send their intelligence agencies to go steal it and gain control. It just becomes a very unstable situation, I think, if you've got any incredibly powerful AI. You just don't know who's going to control that. So it's not as though I think that the risk is that the AI would develop a will of its own right off the bat. I think it's more that's sooner just that someone may use it in a way that is bad. And even if they weren't going to use it in a way that's bad, that somebody could take it from them and use it in a way that's bad. That I think is quite a big danger.
We are, all of us already are cyborgs. So you have a machine extension of yourself in the form of your phone and your computer and all your applications. You are already superhuman. But by far, you have more power, more capability than the President of the United States had 30 years ago. If you have an internet link, you have an oracle of wisdom. You can communicate to millions of people. You can communicate to the rest.
Whoa!
The rest of Earth instantly. I mean, these are magical powers that didn't exist not that long ago. So everyone is already superhuman.
I think the singularity is probably the right word, because we just don't know what's going to happen once there's intelligence substantially greater than that of a human brain. I mean, most of the movies and TV featuring AI, they don't describe it in quite the way it's likely to actually take place. But I think you just have to consider, like, even in the benign scenario where if AI is much smarter than a person, what do we do?
Yeah.
What job do we have?
I have to say that when something is a danger to the public, then there needs to be some government agency, like regulators. The fact is, like, we've got regulators in the aircraft industry, car industry, with drugs, food, and anything that's sort of a public risk. I mean, I think this has to fall into the category of a public risk.
Usually there'll be some new technology. It will cause damage or death. There will be an outcry. There will be an investigation. Years will pass. There will be some sort of insight committee. There will be rulemaking. Then there will be oversight, eventually regulations. This all takes many years. This is the normal course of things. If you look at, say, automotive regulations, how long did it take for seatbelts to be implemented, to be required? The auto industry fought seatbelts, I think, for more than a decade. Successfully fought any regulations on seatbelts, even though the numbers were extremely obvious. If you had a seatbelt on, you would be far less likely to die or be seriously injured. It was unequivocal. And the industry fought this for years, successfully. Eventually, after many, many people died, regulators insisted on seatbelts. This time frame is not relevant to AI. You can't take 10 years from the point at which it's dangerous. It's too late.
I'm not normally an advocate of regulation and oversight. I mean, I think one should generally err on the side of minimizing those things. But this is a case where you have a very serious danger to the public. And therefore there needs to be a public body that has insight and then oversight to confirm that everyone is developing AI safely. This is extremely important. I think the danger of AI is much greater than the danger of nuclear warheads, by and large. And nobody would suggest that we allow anyone to just build nuclear warheads if they want. That would be insane. So why do we have no regulatory oversight? This is insane.
And the intent with OpenAI is to democratize AI power. There's a quote that I love from Lord Acton. He was the guy that came up with power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, which is that freedom consists of the distribution of power and despotism in its concentration. And so I think it's important, if we have this incredible power of AI, that it not be concentrated in the hands of a few and potentially lead to a world that we don't want.
I'm not really all that worried about the short-term stuff. Things that are, like narrow AI is not a species level risk. It will result in dislocation, in lost jobs and the sort of better way. But it is not a fundamental species level risk, whereas digital superintelligence is. So it's really all about laying the groundwork to make sure that if humanity collectively decides that creating digital superintelligence is the right move, then we should do so very, very carefully. Very, very carefully.
We're rapidly headed towards digital superintelligence that far exceeds any human. I think it's very obvious.
Whatever you do, it's better with a website. Introducing Hostinger Website Builder, the fast and easy website builder optimized for online success. Use the AI builder for even faster site creation. Input the description of the website you want and let AI do the rest. Or grab a template and drag and drop elements to perfection.
Hiding. We are ghosts, we are spirits, and we are being attacked. Why is technology so hand in hand? Why is transhumanism, AI? It seems to all be connected. I've talked about the motherboard, us being ghosts in a machine. I mean, look at technology to craft, to weave, but also unwilling to pursue. It's like, did we come to this realm to experience all this like a rite of passage? I absolutely know nothing, and I don't pretend. I always say this, and people say that there's no such thing as ghosts, it's demons. Well, look at me content in my videos talking about ley lines, and are they the spirits, again, the breath of giants or the Nephilim or the fallen? Just makes you think, doesn't it? And when we see spirits and ghosts, because I've saw ghosts, I've had conversations with ghosts, didn't seem evil to me, then what is it? Is that the masquerading being good? I do believe I have a good judge of character and an intuition that says something is evil, something is good. What is your true, nature behind you? Or are you just pretending to be good? That alarm bell inside you. And when we're thinking of this, is could these people actually be on, for instance, when we put on AI, I've never done it, I'm just in films and obviously research, when they're putting on these headsets and then they're going into the AI, the metaverse, whatever, but like Ready Player One, I'm thinking, well, isn't that essence a part of them? And in that realm, is that where we are? And somehow we've broke the code and are able to do much more. Is it like, when you do so many, you do a level and you level up, or you gain experience and you get points in games? Is this what we're doing in here? And people on AI, is that the spirits that we've seen? Because there's so many things, there's the spirits, there's the shadow men, and you can do, when you do feel evil, you can do feel evil, or is it just that electromagnetic frequency that they seem to hone in on? But again, like I was saying, everything seems to feed off you. So from the micro dust mite up to lions and things in the jungle, everything seems to be feeding off each other. But was it always this case? And that's what gets me. Are we, like I said,
in this realm of L11 to experience it? Are we here on our free will? Again, like rites of passage, like young people, that you have to go into this realm and experience life. It'll be like, can I go now? Of a book of magic. But what I found is grimoire or grammar is actually from the word, and here's about the word now, and I've just mentioned it already. The word is technology. Wow. So this will blow your mind, guys. Technology. 1610s, a discourse or treatise of an art or the art, from Latinized form of Greek technologia. Systematic treatment of an art, craft, crafts in magic also, and technique. Originally referred to grammar, grimoire, from techno, combining the form of technique, art, skill, craft in work. So you have grimoire, grammar, which is associated now with magic, and we're talking about Ghost in the Machine. Is technology not a part of the machine, the form? It's just wow. So you can see how I'm going like to my thoughts. So let's start with the Latin converter. Let's type in Ghost in the Machine, and you get, as you can see on the screen, exparavit in machina. So that got me straight away, because obviously the first part of it looks like expire, expiration, and things like everything that's got expire in it. So let's look at what expire or expiration or anything else I can come up with means. Let's get the information flowing. So let's look at expire. Remember, it's in the original video that I'm talking about, but it was EXPIR, so it's still the same basically. Expire. So this was actually brought in etymology wise the 12th century, that period that I've said is the greatest reset ever, that not many people know. You see in the community people talking about resets here, resets there, it's happening so many years. They don't talk about the greatest reset ever. The 500 to 700 year old period where everything changed in this realm, and still people are fighting it to this day. So I just wanted to look if I could see anything a little bit different, or just do it myself. I always like to give what they say and what I can find. It's only fair. So broken technology down into 3 like I normally do, and I'll put up the screen as you can see. So tech means to craft and weave, so that's near enough the same. It's interesting, isn't it? It's like witchcraft, weaving your fate. Seems we're tied. Null means to be unwilling or to pursue, which is interesting. And oji is to study or to appear, like an apparition. It's interesting. So as you can see, technology in the spell etymology that I've just broken down means tech means to craft, to weave, null means to unwilling to pursue, and to study, to appear. So it's like, it seems like the people are unwilling to appear and use the craft to weave. It's just interesting, and I just had to, like I said, I just had to put my little spin on it and add that to the video. So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper, like I do, and offer just an opinion on things. Now you're wondering what am I looking at? You're looking at a screen with like the face warping. It's like the technology is sucking our soul. I mean, we talk about how people are in the phones, etc. all the time, and we're acting like zombies. So a lot of people have been talking about how technology is killing our minds, our health, our relationships, our productivity in daily life, and also our souls, sucking the life force out of you. And that got me to thinking how the ghost and the paranormal is tied together with technology, and obviously I've just did the spell etymology for that. We seem to be living in a realm where everything is feeding off each other, this energy for substance. And it's just like, for instance, you have trolls on YouTube. People don't want you to be happy and successful, so you will have bottom feeders out there making content on you and others, basically degrading you and saying you this and this. They're feeding off your energy, and that's something I've never ever got my head around. I'm just a person like yourselves in a room. We've all had different backgrounds, been brought up differently, we're on different sides of the planet, or this realm. If you say planet, people say it's all a planet. Again, it's just a spell, guys, and we seem to be attacking each other and making it personal constantly because people don't like you to be successful. Hence, if I deem someone to be insignificant, I won't waste my energy. You know, the energy that supposedly never dies, and it goes everywhere, and it's precious. So if I deem someone, you know, why are you like that? I won't spend time. I want to be with people who make me smile, laugh and happy, because there's not enough of it. We don't seem to enjoy life anymore. People are out there, and this beast, this system, this energy sucking succubus, this AI, whatever you want to call it, that we are in, is sucking the goodness, the soul out of us. It's making people bottom feeders, and people should be physically ashamed, emotionally ashamed. How can you do, you know, why do things make personal, attacking people? And again, this is not on anyone particular, this is just what I see. This is why I don't mix and I don't associate myself with anyone, because I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of how everyone is attacking one another because they think differently, or they're making more money, or whatever. It seems to be greed. If something is insignificant to you, you wouldn't waste your energy on it, but you do. You're feeding on this goodness of other people and other channels and in life. You're sucking the goodness out of them, and you should be ashamed of yourself. But again, it falls on deaf ears because it's a con. This community is a con. It's gone of you feeling proud to your brother or sister making brilliant content, trying to expand their minds. No, it's the this. Oh, he scratched his nose 16 times and touched his glasses. Oh, he's wearing a t-shirt. You should be a fucking ashamed of yourself. Honestly, and that, you know what I mean? It's just, I just get so tired of it, and that's why I've walked away from it. I just can't. I'm not willing to be nice to people anymore who treat me like shit. And this is what I've always done in life. I saw the positive in everything, and I'm trying to make people happy. And you can't make people happy. You can't. People will complain at your intro, your outro. You've said this word. You've made a really good thought-provoking video, but one comment in it, something you said, oh, that's it now. You know, we're not. You know, it's ridiculous. And we have to take a step back and ask ourselves, why have we let ourselves get like this? We should be fighting the system, fighting them, but no, we're fighting each other, we're degrading each other, and we're picking apart people. We're taking their energy. If you are an honest to God fucking truther, whatever word that is, you should know this realm is spells, energy. This is what you're seeing on the screen, and you're picking apart and you're taking away someone's energy to make yourself feel bigger, because you are insignificant. And shame on you, anyone who does it. I'm not pulling no punches anymore. It's ridiculous. I will help anyone, but this stupid place, it just got so stupid lately. You cannot do any content. This is content. We're trying to entertain ourselves, trying to make ourselves better. We're trying to think out the box, trying to think different from what we've always been told, and everything is draining our energy, from the micro to the beast to one another. It's shameful, and that's my little rant, because it is tied into this. And when we're seeing people on their phones constantly and wondering where's their energy going, it's being drained. We've always talked about us being batteries to the matrix, but it's not sometimes our physical electric energy or impulses, but also it could be spiritual, our soul. That could be the fuel that they are taking. Hence why we're walking through arches to control people's minds, like the media, because it's spell casting. And it got me to thinking, what is the biggest thing that people are on generally? And it's on the phones, and it's apps like a rune, it's like a sigil, it's like cymatics, because we're living in a medium. Yeah, that type of medium. It's funny, isn't it, when we're living in a medium, because when you see the cymatics hitting a medium, it creates a sigil. So we're living in a medium, and we're hitting these ruins, these apps. And one of the biggest ones at the minute is TikTok, which, if you remember, in Latin means ocean eyes. So showing you we're in the water, looking through. And it got me, what is this app? What is this app? What is that sigil? Where have I saw this before? And it got me to think, yep, Paul, it is Aiwaz, the ruin. And when you look at it together, you can see why I was thinking this. Yes, the TikTok is curved like a hook, because it's hooking you in, it's just drawing you in. But to me, those symbols are nigh on identical. It's just one's curved because it's hooked you in. It's took your weight and it's bent. So what is Aiwaz? Obviously, you'll see straight away it's the yew tree symbol, but it's tied to initiation, death, the death mysteries, the timeless eternity, immortality. There's just so much on it, guys. It literally is. It's tied to the Idrisil, the tree of life, esoterically, Kundalini, the spine. It's tied to the axis of spiritual becoming, upper and lower worlds meeting in Midgard, the earth. It's the ruin of mystery of life and death. So it's tied to energy. It's just crazy. It's encoding this reality, and it's like tied to the chakras, like I said, the spine, and it's the connection between worlds, and they're hooking you in, they're taking your energy. It gets billions of hits a month or a week. It's great. I think it's like just in the US alone, it's like over 50 million, and that's crazy. So you can tell me why I'm intrigued about why use that symbol, because it's hooking you in, it's taking your energy, and look how many people's energy it's taking. It just gets you going, wow. And yes, it's tied to some form of protection, but remember, when you change the rune or a symbol or a sigil or a cymatics, you're changing the actual essence of it. So this is where I can't say, well, this is what Aiwaz means, because it's just similar to it. It's not 100% it. Aiwaz is also linked to protection. So, but they're not trying to protect you, are they? They're trying to draw you away. And some of this is actually in the about Aiwaz. You know what I mean? So it's tied to, like I was saying, to Kundalini, the energy flow in the human psyche. You know, so they're called Kundalini, it's the Aiwaz, and it's the flow of energy from the root chakra. And where does a plant lay its roots? But in the ground, the earth. And it's talking about how it's, you know, all the way up to the crown chakra, bringing cosmic consciousness. So you can just see how it's intriguing me when we're talking about a symbol of the Aiwaz looking like TikTok and everything that goes with what Aiwaz is. I mean, the rune is sacred to Odin, and he's the one who collect the souls of the dead for the people to either travel to Valhalla or the underworld. And this symbol is tied to it. So that's just got me thinking, yes, it's symbolizing transformation in the process of life and death. And we're talking about being ghosts in the machine, and this is the symbol that's drawing that energy. Is this drawing that energy away from our physical bodies? Because some people believe we're in a different realm. It's why we dream and go places. Are we dreaming? I just don't know, and I'm winging it as I go through life. It's just so crazy. I mean, Aiwaz is also tied to the two horses' head in regard to, you know, the horse's steed, and that got me thinking, where have we heard about two heads before? I mean, it's even tied to opening doors of the underworld. The rune also highlights its linkage to the opening door of the underworld. So we're talking about where's that energy going to the underworld, and I've talked about, are we in a chamber? Someone feeding off that energy to go to another chamber, like batteries, spiritually, physically, mentally, whatever you want to call it. There is always someone feeding off something, and that's why I had a little rant, because I'm just tired of people feeding off your energy. I just want to have a laugh. I want to just learn new shit, and when it's different to one's personal opinion, people get attacked for it. And I'll say it again, it is shame on you. You know what I mean? The morals of people in this community is just fucked up. And you know, I'm not apologising anymore. The runes also used to interact with our loved ones who are now in the underworld after death. But if it's reversed, it's not a good sign. You know what I mean? It clearly gives us a warning of one receiving emotional issues in life, etc. So that's what I'm saying. They've slightly changed it from what the Iwas rune is. Why? What is it doing? Am I talking out my ass? Yes, probably, because I'm winging it. I don't know none of this shit. And sometimes, you know, sometimes we can do more harm, like just looking and researching these things. But I'm intrigued. I want to know. And people have talked about, yes, we are siphoning energy off for a long time. There's loads of people have talked about that. And these apps are sigils and gateways of way of doing that. And that's what this symbol could be doing. They've changed it slightly, but it talks about moving and connecting, transformation. And you have to just go, wow, yes, I can see where you were seeing it. And you look, you guys can Google the Iwas and look how many different meanings it is. There's not one set thing on it. People put their own spin on it, and it just blows you away, because it's talking about things that we're talking about, hence its connection to the underworld. It just blew me away. And hopefully, guys, you can see my excitement of just wanting to learn new shit each day.
Yeah, they call me the black sheep. You know they call me the black sheep.
Hello and welcome to What the Flock TV. I'm your host with the boosties, Paul. So
Agnechulis, Aknewan on Jazz, on Mishkas and if me one, Ayaya, Nikwikanit, EJ Helen Lashochu, Mankwika we take you on the Ishpan, Aya, we indefinite take you, Tomawa Kwawak Nikikulawa, Yankwika Twitch, Aya, Onkan Nomistas, Inkaman on Ninkan and Jas Nukwikamachi. Nikja Pamtia Sint Laltikpa. Inon Nemes no yon, San Kayenika. Yawanda Yanguya no Namikoka. Nemes no Denjo. Ayo. Nichoka. Jenikistowa. Aya. Niknotsa no yolo. Manikita in Wikan and Wayu. Aya. Manikata Laki. Aya. Manikata Laki on the Chimwa.
Want you to know.
But before we go any further, let me go ahead and say that this video is strictly made for entertainment purposes only. It's 100% speculation. It's my opinion. None of it's factual. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and say that I'm an actress and I'm practicing my movie lines. So, like, it's fake. Scripted. 100% fake. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into it. Do you know that NASA has an entire parking lot full of cars that were made like before the 70s, before the 60s without any computer chips in them? They're all like old school, reliable cars with no computer chips in them. Why would they need so many old school cars? Why? I know some of you are like, what are you talking about? Here, I scooted myself over so I can show you what I'm talking about. I'll play the video while I tell you about it. Like, why would they need or want to have this many old school cars? It just doesn't make any sense, right? Unless they're planning for something. And the weird thing is they're not just like old school NASA vehicles. You could just be like, oh, those are old NASA vehicles that they're saving onto for like, I don't know, remnants or like just like safekeeping. No. They're like, it's just like an onslaught of different vehicles, different types of old school vehicles. The only thing that they seem to have in common is that they're all old school vehicles, like steel cars, safe, reliable, like you're not going to crunch like an accordion if you get into a car accident, and they have no computer chips in them. Because, you know, if you're preparing for an EMP attack, you might want a parking lot full of cars that would still work because they have no computer chip in them to fry during an EMP. Just a thought, just my thought. I guess this is where that $55 million a day budget is going, huh? Sorry, $55,753,424.66 per day budget, to be exact. Guess that's where that's going, because we all know that it's not actually getting us into space. I don't know. Seems really sus to me. Let me know what you guys think all these old cars are for, and just keep questioning everything. Literally, question everything.
Exposing NASA's secrets they don't want you to know.
But
Let's talk about Operation Big City.
But before we go any further, let me go ahead and say that this video is strictly made for entertainment purposes only. It's 100% speculation. It's my opinion. None of it's factual. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and say that I'm an actress and I'm practicing my movie lines. So, like, it's fake. Scripted. 100% fake. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into it. Have you guys ever heard of Operation Big City? Because if not, you might not want to, because it's like really twisted. It just proves that our government is just running like all types of experiments and tests and studies on us all the time without our knowledge, without consent. Let's get into it. So Operation Big City is a covert experiment that the government ran on the citizens of New York in 1956. So the government used strategically placed cars and underground subway systems to covertly disperse a bacteria, which I'm also going to butcher the name of, known as Vaculus globuli, I don't know, Vaculus globuli, whatever. And they did this, like spread this bacteria through New York, because they wanted to test how far this bacteria would spread if it were to get into the subway systems or like the sewer systems, or just like, you know, just be publicly spread throughout New York. How far would it reach? And of course, what the effects of this bacteria spreading would be on humanity. So how far it would spread and what the effects would be. That's why they dispersed this bacteria, this toxin throughout the city. Cute. Love being your little test subjects. And do you guys really think for 1 second that they actually like compensated any of their test subjects or like asked them if they would voluntarily participate in this experiment? I doubt it. Really doubt it. Or do you think that the civilians of New York ever like were even told that this was happening or asked if this was okay? No, hell no. They did it secretly. They never told anybody until like so many years go by and they have to release it through these declassified documents where 90% of the information is still redacted. Oh, cool. Thanks for telling me your half-truth. Appreciate it. 50 years later when there's nothing I can do. They just continued to secretly carry out this experiment without telling a single civilian or resident of New York what they were willingly ingesting and breathing in and putting in their bodies. Classy. I know, some of you don't believe me. Watch it. Watch this video and enlighten yourselves on Operation Big City.
February 1956. In the heart of New York, Operation Big City was underway. A Ford Mercury, specially adapted with a hidden exhaust pipe, pumped out bacteria onto the streets of Manhattan. Undercover agents entered the city's subway system, their cases equipped with tiny motors, which covertly dispersed the bacteria Bacillus globuli. 10 years later, the army returned. Light bulbs filled with bacteria were dropped in front of trains and down ventilation shafts to test how far the bacteria would spread through the subway system. For years, these public experiments were kept secret from the citizens of New York.
I know. It's insane, right? And do you think that this is like not happening today? Do you think that they just like, oh, that's a thing that happened in the 50s and 60s and we don't do that anymore? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. They cloned Tyrone was about that. Like they'd still do, I promise you they still do this. Promise. But no, I should totally trust the government, right? Because now they've declassified this document and 50, 60 years later with 60 to 75% of the information redacted. So we now like know the truth, right? Or at least like a semi-partial truth, whatever they want us to think is true. Now we know it 50 years later. So like, who are they hurting? Of course we can trust them, right?
Let's talk about Operation Big City.
But before we go any further, let me go ahead and say that this video is strictly made for entertainment purposes only.
Is the Super Bowl used as a satanic death ritual?
But before we go any further, let me go ahead and say that this video is strictly made for entertainment purposes only. It's 100% speculation. It's my opinion. None of it's factual. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and say that I'm an actress and I'm practicing my movie lines. So, like, it's fake. Scripted. 100% fake. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into it. So, some of you may have heard, a lot of you probably haven't, that there was a billionaire plane crash on the way to the Super Bowl. And the main billionaire who we're talking about, I forget his name, but I'm going to play a clip here in a second for you guys to see. But he was like the owner of a bank or something, I believe. And it was him, his wife, and his son that all went down and tragically lost their lives in this plane crash. So if you get rid of him, very wealthy bank owner, his wife, and his heir, who's going to inherit the money? I'm just saying. I'm just saying what we all were thinking, okay? I'm just saying it for all of us. Watch the clip and you'll see exactly what I mean.
I find it very weird that no one is talking about how there were 6 Nigerian billionaires who died in a plane crash mysteriously while on their way to the Super Bowl, and how Biden just posted this cryptic ass message right after they died. The CEO of one of the largest banks in the country was on a helicopter with pilots, family, and the CEO/chairman of the Nigeria Stock Exchange when their helicopter mysteriously caught fire and crashed while on their way to the Super Bowl. And what are the odds that Biden on his presidential X account drops this photo with glowing red eyes and this weird caption that shocks all of America? And the caption for this picture that he actually posted on the presidential Twitter account was "just like we drew it up," and everyone thought that they were talking about the Super Bowl when they weren't. I honestly believe that this is what they were talking about. And if you are unfamiliar with the Nigerian Stock Exchange and what they have going on right now with America and just the overall fight for power, money, and greed, you need to pay attention to what is going on. One of the people on that aircraft was a chief executive of Access Bank, and his wife and his son were among those 6 people that were on board, and it went down shortly after 10 p.m. on Interstate 15, and all 6 people were killed, including 2 pilots and the former chairman of NGX Group, the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And what's so crazy, it is saying that authorities are investigating it, which means to me they may suspect foul play. They are trying to say that this could take up to 2 years. This entire investigation could take up to 2 years, and they are calling it a terrible tragedy. The Super Bowl was a giant ritual, and those people in that helicopter, think about it. If you take out the owner and CEO of a large bank, one of the largest banks in the country, you take off his wife and you take out his son, who is left to get the money? Think about it.
I know. Crazy, right? Insane. Let me know in the comments. Have you heard about that? Had you not heard about it? I had I've heard about it a few times, I think, online, and I had to share it with you guys because it's just crazy. Why are they not covering this in the news? Why is this not like common knowledge, right? Because they don't want it to be common knowledge, obviously.
Is the Super Bowl used as a satanic death ritual?
But before we go any further, let me go ahead and say that this video is strictly made for entertainment purposes only. It's 100% speculation. It's my opinion. None of it's factual.
Federal Reserve, also known as the banking cartel.
Today we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve and what's really going on there. But before we go any further, this video is 100% speculation. Matter of fact, it's fake. Let's just say that I'm an actress and I'm practicing my movie lines. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into it. So the Federal Reserve was set up as a one-way street, basically to fail or implode, like mathematically, statistically. Let's just call it what it is. It's a banking cartel whose product is money. They print it out of thin air and sell it back to us at an interest. But if you or I do that, it's counterfeit and will land us in jail. Funny, right? Watch this and you'll have a better understanding of what I'm talking about.
There's these people that own the Federal Reserve Bank. They actually own the money. What a great business model. That's your product? You own the money? Yeah, isn't that cool? We just make it up out of nothing and then we sell it to you at interest. Wow, that sounds profitable. Can I do that? No, you cannot do that. If you do it, it's counterfeiting and we will throw your ass in jail. It's depressing to me, right? The very name Federal Reserve was a deception to make us think it's part of our government. The people that are on the money were against the Federal Reserve System. Jefferson was against it, Jackson was against it, Lincoln and Franklin were against it, and they're on the damn money.
Now remember, that's just a comedy script and not at all based in reality. Right? How about the way that the Federal Reserve actually works? Do you know the actual ins and outs of that? If not, allow me to share it with you. Sean, take it away.
The Federal Reserve is not the government. The Federal Reserve is a bunch of dudes that have got the right to print the money. So the money that comes into circulation is just printed at will, out of thin air. Doesn't exist. But it's printed to, say, the government or into circulation. But the money from them is borrowed at interest. They have the monopoly on creating the dollar. So the money comes out, goes into circulation, But our taxes and everything don't go to your roads and don't go to all that shit. That's all taxed in amongst all the millions of things that are taxed in the dollar itself. With your council rates, your import taxes, all that sort of thing goes into that sort of stuff. And basically, most of your taxes is going back to pay that debt. But it's only interest. So the only way to pay back the interest from the people who create the money is to borrow more money. It's only a one-way street to implode, to fail, mathematically. But the money goes into circulation, and this is where everything's guys under, they create a problem and then give you a solution thinking that they're helping you out, but it's no, there is no, this is all deception, misdirection, fucking with you. The money gets injected in, and now you've got all your cash down here. You've got, not in the banking system, because the money that goes into the banking system just gets re-lent out. They only have to hold like 10% or something like that. So you put in $10,000, they can loan out that $9,000, which is your money, which just comes back around back into the bank, yeah, at interest, and then they loan that back out again, and then they loan that back out again. They just start doubling, tripling and making their money on the interest on the same amount of money, your money, yeah? It's all fake, it's all bullshit. It's nothing, it's worth nothing, you know? But we perceive it as it means something. They don't want the money in your hands, they want it in their hands. So to get your cash, to get your money, they systematically, in different areas, start bumping up the prices of everything to remove that money from your hands to ultimately get back into and then back up to them. To be in their control, into their power. So inflation isn't designed to help, it makes no fucking sense. So then all these crises, they come out, all this shit goes wrong, a war comes up, you know, a fucking virus, and all this sort of shit. You know, we all like, oh, there's this problem. So the government goes, oh, well, we want to put money in to fix this problem. So what do? They borrow more money at interest. Yeah. So if these people, if you create these problems, you know that by us consenting, but letting the government do it to borrow against us, and then what do? We have to pay that back. That problem that they've created, they're pretending that we're getting a solution, that we give them consent for that solution, and then we're paying for it.
Nuts, right? Now, how about the coincidental and mysterious beginning of the Federal Reserve banking system? Have you heard about that? Allow me to share if you haven't. So originally, some extremely rich passengers bought tickets and were going to be aboard the Titanic as it set off on its last voyage. Like JP Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, the Rothschilds, and Jacob Astor, who at this time was the wealthiest man in the world. He owned about 40% of all mortgages at that time, and he was a Freemason who strongly disagreed with the central banking system idea. Whereas JP Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, and the Rothschilds strongly supported the idea of a central banking system. So Jacob Astor was ultimately the wealthiest man of any significance that was standing in their way at the time. The morning that the Titanic set sail, JP Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, and the Rothschilds just didn't show up for their voyage without any explanation as to why. Almost like they knew something. 5 days later, the Titanic slams into the iceberg and sinks. And even though Jacob Astor is the wealthiest man in the world at this time, he can't manage to get a seat on any lifeboat and tragically went down with the ship and the other lost passengers that night. Shortly after, Abram Andrew, Nelson Aldrich, JP Morgan, Henry Davidson, Frank Vanderlip, and Paul Warburg became the wealthiest men in the world. And now that Jacob Astor wasn't in their way, the next year, in 1913, on Jekyll Island in Georgia, the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law, paving the way to print money out of thin air and sell it at interest, therefore completely controlling our monetary system. Now, we all know I don't believe in coincidences, so it's pretty clear to me what happened here. But as always, let me know what you think in the comments, and make sure you're following us on all our social media pages for more videos just like this.
Federal Reserve, also known as the banking cartel.
Today we're going to talk about the Federal Reserve and what's really going on there. But before we go any further, this video is 100% speculation. Matter of fact, it's fake. Let's just say that I'm an actress and I'm practicing my movie lines. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into it. So the Federal Reserve was set up as a one-way street, basically to fail or implode, like mathematically, statistically. Let's just call it what it is. It's a banking cartel whose product is money. They print it out of thin air and sell it back to us at an interest. But if you or I do that, it's counterfeit and will land us in jail. Funny, right? Watch this and you'll have a better understanding of what I'm talking about.
And there's these people that own the Federal Reserve Bank. They actually own the money. What a great business model. That's your product? You own the money? Yeah, isn't that cool? We just make it up out of nothing and then we sell it to you at interest. Wow, that sounds profitable. Can I do that? No, you cannot do that. If you do it, it's counterfeiting and we will throw your ass in jail. It's depressing to me, right? The very name Federal Reserve was a deception to make us think it's part of our government. The people that are on the money were against the Federal Reserve System. Jefferson was against it, Jackson was against it, Lincoln and Franklin were against it, and they're on the damn money.
Now remember, that's just a comedy script and not at all based in reality. Right?
Undeniable proof the news is scripted.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We're extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about responsible, one-sided news stories
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Undeniable proof the news is scripted.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We're extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about responsible, one-sided news stories
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Undeniable proof the news is scripted.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley.
The Pope and the devil are friends.
Are you guys seeing the same thing I'm seeing? Because I'm gonna need somebody to make sense of this shit. The math ain't mathin'. Like, what the fuck is this thing in this picture, and why is the Pope hanging out with it? I have so many questions. I really don't want to say, like, the Pope hangs out with demons, but... make it make sense other than that. Here's a close-up over his shoulder of whatever the fuck those two things are standing back there. And here's an even more zoomed in one. The shit is wild, dude. Like, all their faces are demented. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me either. And then this thing standing next to this man. Don't know. Your guess is as good as mine? Hopefully somebody can make it make sense, because, like... And then this last picture I found, it's a picture of the Pope, but his shadow doesn't make sense. Somebody make this shit make sense, please? Because what the fuck is going on? Let me know what you think about this in the comments, because my mind is blown. And make sure you like, follow, and share for more videos just like this.
The Pope. Did you know bees can talk?
So apparently, if you capture some honeybees and put them underneath a cup, you can record voices and what sounds like them talking to each other. I know, it's crazy. And I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about. But before I go any further, I have to give a quick disclaimer or they're gonna take this video down. So this video was made strictly for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered factual. I simply point out crazy ass shit that I find because I want you guys to see it. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into it. So there's a TikToker by the name of Your Bee Guy. I will tag him in the description. And he has a bee nest, hive, whatever at his house where he raises bees, right? And he realized that when you capture a few bees and put them under a cup, you can hear them talking. And I fucking shit you not, dude. Listen. Now that was just one bee. Let's listen to him capture two.
Okay, y'all been wanting to hear two B's. So let's get to see if they have a conversation.
Like, deadass, did you hear the two different voices? This shit is fucking insane. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments, and as always, make sure you like, follow, and share for more videos just like this. I got something really interesting for you guys today, so make sure you watch this video till the end. But I'm gonna give the disclaimer now because once I start this story, I don't want to stop. So this video was made strictly for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered factual. This is gonna be just story time and it's just my opinion. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and say the whole damn video is scripted. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into it. I want to tell you guys a story that I heard from an ex-military operative. Let's call him Jim to conceal his identity. So when Jim worked for the military, he was called in to solve this problem, this timeline contraption problem. So Jim did his due diligence and all the investigating that he could do. And basically, Jim could only come to one reasonable conclusion, and that was that the computers were right. The timelines will contract down to some inevitable event. It's been forecasted, it's been predicted, it's been fed to us on what they want us to believe will happen. But the thing is, the Cabal doesn't actually have control over this inevitable event. They will only have control over their reaction. And it seems from all Jim's research, no matter what they try to do to cause their desired reaction, it's basically going to have an opposite effect. Jim said that if he had to give a name to this inevitable event, he would call it the awakening process, which is an evolution of consciousness that cannot and will not be stopped. No matter what decisions or possibilities are injected into the equation, it eventually all boils down to us all learning the truth and becoming aware of this massive dam of lies that has been built that keeps us from knowing a massive volume of information that we should otherwise possess. Information of society's consciousness awakening was of monumental concern when Jim was in the military. The government wanted to learn about every possible way to prevent this inevitable event, but they never found one. At first, Jim admits that he was scared and he thought that this inevitable event was the end of the world. But now he realizes the end of the world is just the end of their world. And the biggest cherry on top of this whole conversation is that when all of this information comes flooding out, there's going to be no denying what's true and what's a lie or an illusion. Basically, let me sum it up for you like this. What we're experiencing right now is two master chess players sitting at the board. One of the players looks down at the board and realizes that he's going to be in checkmate within the next 7 moves. He then looks across at his opponent and knows that his opponent sees this too. So there's no getting out of it. So at this point, the only thing that the loser can do is prolong the game. Both players know that the game is over. It's only a matter of time before he does this, and then you're forced to do this, and then he does that, which ultimately makes you do this, and eventually, checkmate. If we as a race could understand that the game is over, that based on the rules of the game, the bad guys have already lost and the good guys have already won. Yes, there's still moves left on the table, but those moves are being forced by the player that's ultimately going to win. The only way that the checkmate cannot happen is if the winning player makes a mistake. But from all the information that Jim has gathered, all the information that has been given to him and vetted for him, it seems pretty obvious to Jim that the good guy player on the chessboard knows exactly what has to be done in order to win the game. And at this point, any mistake would be impossible. That shit hit my soul. How about you? Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. And I only have one thing left to say. Checkmate, motherfucker! I came across a list of all the current directed energy weapons that the is using against us. Without our knowledge, obviously, because I didn't consent to any of this. Let me know if you guys did, but I highly doubt it. This patent is for an oral electronic tracking device that can be implanted in teeth, dentures, or braces. And then this patent can induce whatever desired emotional state through EMF patterns, for instance, sleepiness or arousal, anything they want you to feel. Or how about this next patent? Yet another nickname, they call it the rock the baby sensation. And it remotely causes the subject to feel their body swaying, like they just experienced an earthquake or something. This next one, I think we all knew it existed, but this patent controls human brainwaves by superimposing hidden phrases into music signals. I mean, I already knew they were doing that, but if you want to see the patent that proves it, there it is. I came across a list of all the current directed energy weapons that the is using against us. Without our knowledge, obviously, because I didn't consent to any of this. Let me know if you guys did, but I highly doubt it. This patent is for an oral electronic tracking device that can be implanted in teeth, dentures, or braces. And then this patent I came across a list of all the current directed energy weapons that the
is using against us without our knowledge, obviously, because like I didn't consent to any of this. Let me know if you guys did, but I highly doubt it. But here's the patent number for what I'm talking about right up here. You can always go look stuff for yourself. I always encourage that. This patent is for remotely transmitting intelligible subjective sounds into a target's consciousness, or they call it voice to skull. I think that's cute. Love your little nicknames, bro. So basically, for those of you who don't speak government, remotely transmit subjective intelligible sound into target consciousness basically means that they're going to be able to remotely, not from anywhere near you, but from like a faraway location, be able to put a certain sound into like a specific person's brain or consciousness, like whatever person they want, whenever they want. Or like a thought or whatever, and you would think it's organic. I came across a list of all the current directed energy weapons that the is using against us without our knowledge, obviously, because like I didn't consent to any of this. Let me know if you guys did, but I highly doubt it. But here's the patent number. I came across a list of all the current directed energy weapons that the is using against us without our knowledge, obviously, because like I didn't consent to any of this. Let me know if you guys did, but I highly doubt it. Well, this patent can remotely monitor your heart rate and perspiration through the use of directed EMFs. Yeah, you heard me right. And after I tell you this one, you guys like are never going to touch your phone again, but check this. This next patent is, of course, for your phone. It doesn't exactly say that, but I mean, come on. It's for monitoring vital signs of a subject via a remote application of radar waves through a handheld device. So your phone. And then this patent is just for some good old dream alteration. Like literally your own fucking dreams aren't even your own, dude. I came across a list of all the current directed energy weapons that the is using against us. I came across a list of all the current directed energy weapons that the is using against us without our knowledge, obviously, because like I didn't consent to any of this. Let me know if you guys did, but I highly doubt it. Patent number is used for subliminal manipulation of a subject's emotions via remotely directed audio waves. Or in other words, they can make you feel whatever frickin' way they want to just by manipulating some audio waves around you. This next one is really fucking trippy, dude. So for patent number, this one is called the ventriloquist effect. And it makes a voice emanate from individuals who did not intend to release it. Or in other words, it can make you talk when you didn't mean to. Fucking ventriloquist effect. Like, who comes up with this shit? Or how about this next one, okay, for the patent number up there. This patent can control your brain state by placing engineered EMF patterns into the AC wiring of buildings. I fucking shit you not, dude. I came across a list of all the current directed energy weapons that the is using against us.
Mind control using your television and phone.
Your TV is literally a patented mind control device, and it's literally designed to psychologically change the way that you view reality. And you already know that I'm going to come with all the receipts to prove this to you guys. But before we go any further, I have to give a disclaimer so they don't take this video down. This video was made strictly for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered factual. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and say the whole damn video is scripted. Hopefully that's good enough. Now let's get into it. Now this is public record, so you can go look this up for yourselves, but there is a patent under the number US 6506148B2. Like I said, please look this patent number up for yourself and do your own research. But this patent is titled Nervous System Manipulation by Electromagnetic Fields from Monitors. So basically, in layman's terms, the more that we watch TV, the more we go into the alpha brainwave state, which is the slow receptive pattern that accepts images and suggestions into our subconscious minds without us even really being aware of it, or with very little actual cognitive thinking going on. And there's been studies to prove this. Here's a picture of the diagram from the patent proving that they're talking about your TV and your phones. Okay, but here's where it gets really freaking crazy. The former CIA director, William Casey, came out and said,
"We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false."
CIA has been working with Hollywood since its creation in 1947. And this declassified document on the CIA's own website shows that the intelligence agency has infiltrated every major news outlet in America. Now, I know it's really hard for some of you to fathom the idea that we could be manipulated and used in such bizarre ways for the purpose of profit or control from other agencies, but it is a reality that we have to face. They call it a TV program for a reason, because it is programming your mind. Some people think I'm crazy when I tell them this, but I'm just here trying to tell you the truth. Let me prove it to you with one simple statement. Have you ever seen a commercial for a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Maybach? No, you haven't. Because they don't make them. Because the clientele that can afford to spend that much money on a car is not watching TV. Did you hear what I just said? The people who are buying these expensive cars are not watching TV. So these car companies do not advertise for their cars on TV because it would be a waste. Let that sink in. It's crazy. And after all of this, if you still don't believe me, listen to what this guy has to say. Just listen.
All right, so look, here's the deal. They have been desensitizing us since we were born. And I'll give you some examples. Let's start with the big one. Let's start with words we hear all the time and never even think about. Let's start with the word entertainment. To entertain. What does that mean? To bind or hold. To bind or hold what? An audience's attention. Okay, now let's take the word Hollywood. Where does that come from? Well, Hollywood comes from the holly tree. And the ancient druids, back in the day, used to take the holly tree, make wands to weave spells, cast spells, or channel spells. And when they needed help, they would consult the magi's or the mediums of the day to help channel their spells to the population. We'll cut to today. What do we have in our houses? We have these black boxes. What are they called? TVs. But if you stop and you say the word television, television. And when you turn on that television, what do you get? What's the first thing that pops up? A list of channels. And when you turn on those channels, what's on those channels? Programming. They are programming you. They've been programming your whole life. You don't even know it. They do it with your music. They do it with your TV. They do it with your movies. They do it with your games. They have been programming us and programming you since you were little, and you don't even know it because you don't even question it.
Is it starting to make sense yet? Now, when I was researching this patent, I unknowingly to me at the time unlocked a whole new freaking can of worms than I was even ready to explore. But this topic is going to have to take me dedicating a whole video just to it. But let me just tell you that I found a current list of the weapons that the American government is using against us, the American public, without our knowledge. There's a whole list of harmful ones and then a list of helpful ones, and it's just fucking insane, dude. Literally, when I came across this information, my jaw was on the floor. I could not believe what I had just stumbled upon. But that's going to be the next video. So stay tuned because I promise you're not going to want to miss it. Until then, let us know your thoughts and opinions about this in the comment section. And as always, make sure you like, follow, and share for more videos just like this.
Mind. Have you ever heard of skin suits? Have you ever heard of skin suits? The United States government is getting ready for a fake alien invasion.
This is going to be the most important video that I have ever made for you guys. So I'm going to need your full undivided attention, and I'm going to need you to pay attention to what I'm telling you, because I promise this is the most important information you'll ever hear. But before we go any further, I have to give a disclaimer so this does not get taken down. This video was made strictly for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered factual. We simply point out patterns and things that we notice. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and say the whole damn video is scripted. Alright, now let's get into it. So I'm sure by now everyone has heard of the aliens that have been attacking Peru. It's been all over the internet. If you haven't heard about it, go look it up and do your own research, because that's not exactly what this video is about. But we will briefly be discussing the details of what's happening in Peru. Locals have captured footage of these supposed aliens, footage of their crafts, and news articles interviewing the local people from the indigenous tribes who are supposedly being attacked by these aliens. And according to the locals, there were 3 different kinds of aliens. Grays, invisible ones that resembled the Predator, and then green ones that resembled the Green Goblin from Spider-Man. And they dubbed them the face peelers based on what they were doing to these people. The name is pretty descriptive. You can imagine what the aliens were doing and how they were attacking. They were very specific with their descriptions, okay? Let's just put it that way. And of course, once this news was released, everybody was freaking out. That is until a couple days ago when this article came out. And it reads, "The residents of a village in Peru are living under constant fear after alleged attacks by aliens. The villagers claim that the aliens, who were around 7 foot tall, attacked them and ate their blank off. The villagers also said that the aliens were unaffected by their weapons. They called the aliens pelicaras, which means the face eaters. However, the officials said that the aliens, as claimed by the villagers, were in reality the members of a gold mining gang in the area who hailed from different parts of Central and South Americas." Yeah, okay. Predictive programming or what? Are they trying to get you ready for an alien invasion or what? How are they gonna come out and say aliens are attacking Peru, invisible aliens, and then be like, nah, just kidding. saying it's gold miners. Like, are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Let's continue on. The officials said the alleged aliens are none other than illegal gold miners in the area. They use jetpacks to fly and scare the locals. They scare the villagers to keep them away from their illegal mining sites. On July 29, the cartel tried to kidnap a 15-year-old girl. However, the cartel was not able to kidnap, but they injured the girl. The girl sustained injuries to her face and neck during the kidnapping attempt. A man also reported that he was injured on his head by the aliens. Like, nope. I'm sorry, is it gold miners or is it cartel? I can't keep up. These people said they were invisible, like the Predator. It was a green goblin, like the green goblin from Spider-Man, and then there were grays. They were very descriptive. They said they were armored and that their bullets had no effect on them. And they said that they had circle shoes on, which allowed them to levitate a few meters off the ground. Not fucking jetpacks. Circle shoes and a backpack are two completely different things. I'm sorry, but just, please listen to what I'm telling you. An investigation is underway after the alleged attacks by the aliens in the village. The officials said that the illegal gold mining mafia have been evacuated from their countries, hence why they are operating from Peru. They also said that they are using advanced technology to escape in and out of the area. They are scaring away the villagers to hunt down the gold in the area illegally. The villagers are still terrorized and think that the face-eating aliens are responsible for the attacks because they seen them and they encountered them and they were attacked by them. And they're not buying that it's illegal gold miners because gold miners and face-eating aliens are two completely different things. They are trying to pre-program your subconscious mind into accepting an alien invasion. Did you hear what I said? They are doing this so that there is not a public freakout and hysteria like mass-wide when their alien invasion really does happen. Like, please listen to what I'm telling you. Have you seen their hologram technology? This shit's good, right? Like, really good. And if you think that we have access to the same technology that the government has, you are sadly mistaken. The shit that they release to us is like prehistoric compared to the shit that they have. Listen, Ronald Reagan tried to warn us forever ago. Listen to him.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Nobody wants a one-world government. People who know nothing about government or politics don't want a one-world government. They've known this. The Vatican Church knew this forever ago, but they didn't have the technology to fake one. But now they do. I'm telling you, they are going to have a fake alien invasion. It is going to be 100% a hoax. The alien UFOs will be holograms. Hear me now, but there will be real military craft inside of the holograms that you cannot see that are actually causing mass destruction. So it will look like the aliens are causing the mass destruction. And then everyone will be horrified and fearful and beg for a one-world united government to protect us from this alien threat. Please hear me. I really hope that you guys are hearing what I'm saying because like this is so important. Are you ready? This is just my feeling. Again, I'm not saying this is factual, but I have a really strong feeling that this is gonna happen. But I still have never wanted to be wrong so bad in my life. And I think it's better to be prepared than not ready at all. Please let us know your thoughts and opinions about this in the comment section. Please share this video so it reaches everybody that it can because we all need to hear this message before it's too late and before they take this video down. We love and care about you all and we just want to make sure that you're informed so you can keep yourselves and your family safe. As always, make sure you like, follow, and share for more videos just like this.
The United States government is undeniable proof that the Illuminati is real.
Alright, before we go any further, I have to give a disclaimer so this does not get taken down. This video was made strictly for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this video should be considered factual. We simply point out patterns and things that we notice. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and say the whole damn video is scripted. Alright, now let's get into it. Alright, it's time we talk about the Illuminati, because I think it's time to prove that they are actually an elite cabal that really exist and really control this world, Hollywood, celebrities, elites, all of it. This world is ran by the devil. Earth is Satan's playground. The sooner that you accept this realization, the better off that you will be. A lot of people will try and convince you that these are all just coincidences. But you know how I feel about coincidences. They don't exist. Coincidences happen maybe once. Anything more than that is a pattern. And patterns have purpose. They're here for a reason. These are not average, everyday poses. Tell me one time that you have taken a picture and held up a hand over your eye, or any of these symbols. Normal people don't do this. They are going out of their way to pledge their allegiance to their god, Satan. Like, period. It really is as simple as that. This is real, and it's right in your face. It's time for us to wake up and see the world for what it really is. Lift that veil and think outside the box that they keep trying to put you in. Because the world is a stage, and they are putting on the show to fool us. So don't be fooled. Think for yourself. God gave you a brain, use it. Alright, I'm gonna let a few more of these Illuminati symbolism pictures play out, and then I have a crazy clip to show you.
Undeniable proof that the Illuminati is real.
Aknech kulis. Aknewan on jazz. On milka sanif miwan. Ayayer. Nikwikanit. Ije hele la shochu. Mankwikawi teki on teishpan. Ayer. Wayin defni teki. Tamawa kwawit nikikulawa. Yankwikatwitech. Ayer. Onkan namistas. Inkeman oninkan nijes nakwikamachiyo. Nikyakwautia sin tlaltikpak. Inon nimis no yon. Sankayenika. Yawalda yankuya no namikoka. Nimis yun no tentyo. Ayo. Ni choka. Janikistua. Aya. Niknotsa no yolo. Manikita inwikan el huayo. Aya. Manikyata laki. Aya. Maikata pispas kinamichinwa. Pangunipa no yon.
Arise, my king. Healing in life. Healing in life in Yahushua's name. profit. When you say you love, when you say you love, you love. When you say you love, 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 all up in the when you say you love, when you say you love, all up in the studio, when you say you love, all up in the studio, way up inside the studio, way up inside the studio, yeah, studio, studio, when you say you love, 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 studio, all up in the studio, when you say you love, studio, studio, when you say you love, studio, when you say you love, all up in the studio, studio, when you say you love. Hallelujah! Never gonna block my joy. Never gonna block my joy. Never gonna block my joy.
Right now, in the mighty name of Jesus, reveal to them the truth about their manhood. Show them what it means to and looks like to be a true man of God, according to you and not the world. Minister unto their hearts, so that they see that they are not weak for having or expressing emotions, nor are they less of a man for submitting to you. We cast down that false doctrine that they are limited by loving and pleasing the woman. That marriage subtracts something from the Lord. We come against that, Lord, over their hearts. When you say you love, when you say you love, all up in the when you say you love, when you say you love, all up in the when you say you love, all up in the way up inside the studio, way up inside the studio, yeah, studio, studio, when you say you love, studio. On that realest hit, y'all got no idea. On my realest spit, y'all brought hope and I see it. Never gonna block my joy. Never gonna block my joy. We got mixtapes past my age, no switch lanes, just road rage. Just shift planes, like realms break. They want war and peace, J.D. Helm place. And if we do compete, we stay low and pray. Champions in battle, straight ghost waves. All things are mine, legal, no escape.
Nice.
Healing in life.
It looks like you lost another one.
Plead the blood of traffic. We're taking everything from you. Say yeah, hallelujah. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. Yeah, keep it cool, my spring breeze. Aqua aromatics, it's a brain freeze. You blow my mind, I'm an airhead. Whether sweet or sour, there's a cabbage patch. Kick it old school. Keep it to play it backs. Yeah. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. It's your blood and your love and your word. Torah rules for bearing institutes. No cage thoughts, only institutes. Walk in the ancient path. Yeah. Torah rules for bearing institutes. No cage thoughts, only institutes. I feel your blood and your love and your word. I feel your blood and your love and your word. I feel your blood and your love and your word.
Nung kui kawi teki on teis tomawa kwawitli.
Aknet release. Akne one on jazz. On milkas and if me one. Ayaya. Nikwi kanet. Ije hele lo sochu. Mankwika we teki on taispan. Aya. We in deathnik teki. Tomawa kwawak nikikulawa. Yankwika twitech. Aya. Onkan no mistas. Inkeman on ninkan ni jes nakwika machio. Nikja kwautia sin tlaltipak. Inon nemes no yon. San kayenika. Yawalda yankuya no namikoka. Nemes yeno tenjo. Ayo. Ni choka. Jenny kiftawa. Aya. Nik nota no yolo. Mani kita in weekend and waya. Aya. Mani jata laki. Aya. Mani kata pipas ke mani chuma.
Here at the Vancouver Public Library since February 12th, when an opinion article about this evening's event appeared in the Vancouver Sun, we have experienced just how difficult this can be. As we know, there are community members, and particularly those from the Jewish community, who are angry, hurt, and offended that this event is taking place, and they have called for its cancellation. We very much regret that this is the case. However, it remains the library's belief that we must stand by the principle of freedom of expression, and therefore the decision was made not to cancel the program. The selection of materials collected and presented at Vancouver Public Library is based on the belief that every person has the right to access all expressions of knowledge, opinion, and creativity, and express their thoughts publicly within the limits set by law. This freedom of access is essential to the health and development of a democratic society. However, freedom of choice within the library cannot be limited by the personal views of any group or individual, even the majority. Upholding the principle of intellectual freedom can also at times put you in the position of appearing to support points of view in which you do not believe. The role of the public library, however, is to provide a forum for an open and public exchange of contradictory views and to make available materials that represent a wide range of views. This is especially true during Freedom to Read Week, when libraries often present books that people might feel uncomfortable reading. Greg Felton's new book, The Host and the Parasite, is such a book. Greg Felton currently writes for print and online publications about Middle Eastern and Canadian politics. He has a bachelor's degree in Russian studies and a master's degree in political science from the University of British Columbia. With that, I will now introduce Greg Felton.
What I'd like to start off by suggesting is that those of you who have looked at the United States over the last 8 years can only look with sadness and despair at what has happened to what used to be a republic. For 225 years, the United States has been at least nominally supportive of things like individual rights, protection of the person, the rights against the accused, habeas corpus, the right against illegal search and seizure. And now, as we look around, we have the United States becoming the apotheosis, the very opposite of what it started out to be. Torture is now officially justified as national policy. The United States has declared war on its own citizens. People can be arrested without warrant. Wiretaps are allowed without judicial permission. The economy has been spent into an absurd debt of $9 trillion, much of it earned during the time of George W. Bush. And over this time, we are supposed to think of the United States as a republic, as the same country that you and I grew up with. When I was a boy in the 1960s, I used to watch television like all of you, those of you who are older, as much as old as I am. And I'd watch shows like cartoons like Superman, although a Canadian invented it, or Mighty Mouse, or Mighty Mouse or Bugs Bunny, and I used to have a great affection for the United States. To me, it was simply a country that espoused the motto of peace, justice, and the American way, truth, justice, and the American way. Well, that no longer applies. And I don't think anybody in this room would argue that the United States is fundamentally different than what it was during the 1950s and 60s or even the 1970s. And because of that, I think I'd like to explain why this change took place. Because if I were to poll the audience, I bet I would find almost all of you, or most of you at least, would say the United States went downhill when George W. Bush occupied the White House. Until Bill Clinton was president, we had a pretty good time. September the 11th, knocked down a couple of buildings, led to the passage of the USA Patriot Act. And from there, people might argue, we went into a spiral into the abyss of statism, torture, imperial overreach, and all other sorts of things you can associate with undemocratic activity. Well, if you do that, you end up with a problem. And the problem is this. On October 3rd, 2001, 24 days after September the 11th happened, the Department of Justice handed Congress a document. The Department of Justice handed Congress a document. It was called the USA Patriot Act, and Congress was told to pass it. Now, Congress is a legislative body. It's the body that makes laws. But here we have a Congress being told to follow a diktat from the executive, which is kind of weird. At least Congress should have the right to have oversight. Congress should at least evaluate it, discuss it, debate it. Well, Senator Russell Feingold of Wisconsin, Democratic senator, was one such person who did read it and insisted on some amendments being made before he would introduce it for discussion. The Patriot Act was entered into the House October 23rd and signed by Bush on October 26th. Now, for legislation, that is an absurdly fast scenario. But that document did something very strange and very sad, because it legislated the Republic out of existence. That document killed the Republic and turned the United States into a proto-fascist empire, legally. But if we start from this perspective and think the United States went downhill from this date, we end up with a problem. We have to explain why a Congress would commit political suicide. Why would Congress do this? Well, if you have Congress comprised of Republicans and Democrats who are democratic, it doesn't make any sense. You don't just commit suicide like that. Well, my book takes a perspective that Congress was incapable of defending the Constitution, which of course the Patriot Act utterly destroys. It is my view that the United States went downhill not beginning with George W. Bush, but beginning with Ronald Reagan in 1980. And through a period of 25 years, the United States managed to mutate from a republic slowly toward a police state. And it did so because of events that came out of the Vietnam War. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back a bit to the climate of the 1960s and describe for you what happened because of the counterculture and the anti-war movement. In the 1960s, I'm sure many of you know, the United States was fighting two battles at once, Vietnam and Lyndon Johnson's Great Society public spending programs. Johnson was a populist, he was a reformer. He believed in spending money to help Americans, the poor Americans, all Americans. The problem is it was an expensive proposition, and it ran counter to a lot of people's belief that the state ought to have no role in spending money on people, that people ought to be responsible for themselves. And a lot of conservatives, so-called Straussians or neoconservatives, took exception to this. And as a result of the anti-war movement, the Great Society spending, the rise of civil rights and sexual liberation and equality for women, there developed in the United States a reactionary anti-democratic countercurrent comprised of three distinct elements. One was evangelical Christians, who saw this as a dangerous threat to the stability of the United States and took exception to the spending programs and the liberalized sexual attitudes. The seminal point for this was the 1973 passage of the Roe versus Wade decision, which made abortion legal upon demand, or at least decriminalized it. In that same year, Paul Weyrich founded something called the Heritage Foundation, the very first so-called conservative think tank. And ultimately, 11 members of Heritage would find their way into Ronald Reagan's first government. So to all intents and purposes, Ronald Reagan was a front man for the Heritage Foundation. The second group were the so-called neocons, properly called Straussians, because they follow the teachings of a professor called Leo Strauss. And he got a big leg up from a man named Irving Kristol, a very influential a Jewish professor who left New York, went to Washington, D.C., and helped turn Leo Strauss's philosophy of unenlightened self-interest into a major economic movement. Leo Strauss believed that a government had a right to lie to its own people, to keep truths
So
from
who do you
them,
think wrote the stuff? Do you
not
think
to give
people wrote the
people,
stuff,
the
or do you
common
think God
people,
wrote
any
the
sort
stuff?
of help, because that would weaken the fiber of American society.
Either way, even if it were, I mean, because I am an Orthodox Jew, I believe that at the very least it's God inspired and God written, right? But even if I believed on a secular level that human beings wrote that stuff, do I think that people 3,000 years ago had never seen a gay person before?
Do
or a
you
person
think
who had
that they
homosexual tendencies?
understood?
Like, the very reason to have a commandment is because certain people in your community are behaving in a particular way, presumably.
Right.
There's no commandment not to take your head and shove it in a meat grinder.
Well, this is also the argument against pork, is because they didn't understand trichinosis. They didn't understand you have to cook the meat to 145 degrees and pork parasites, which are very dangerous for people.
So, I'm not a huge fan of naturalistic explanations for religion.
Don't you think that's a good one, though, for pork?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think you could make an argument, maybe.
Who do you think wrote the stuff? Do you think people wrote the stuff, or do you think God wrote the stuff?
I think either way, even if it were, I mean, because I am an Orthodox Jew, I believe that at the very least it's God inspired and God written, right? But even if I believed on a secular level that human beings wrote that stuff, do I think that people 3,000 years ago?
You know about that guy, John Marco Allegro? Do you know who he is?
No.
He's the guy who deciphered the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he wrote a seriously controversial book. So he became agnostic, and he wanted to look at the etymology of the words. It was his conclusion, after 14 years, that the entire Christian religion was a gigantic misunderstanding, and what it really was about was psychedelic mushroom experiences and fertility rituals. He broke down the word Jesus to an ancient word that means a mushroom covered in God's semen. And the idea was that the rain, which would make everything grow, was God's cum, and that it wasn't a bad thing. Like, they didn't think of cum as bad. They wanted to live. Everybody wanted to have children. They wanted to prosper.
Yeah.
And that when the rain would come, mushrooms would appear almost instantaneously. And when they would eat those, they would trip their fucking balls off. So they had decided that this was Jesus. You know about that guy, John Marco Allegro? Do you know who he is?
No.
He's the guy who deciphered the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he wrote a seriously controversial book. So he became agnostic, and he wanted to look at the etymology of the words. It was his conclusion, after 14 years, that
So I want to share with you something I learned from the Bible about the New World Order that completely blew my mind. Do you remember that part in Revelation that says, I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads? We later learn in Revelation that these horns right here are actually symbolized as kings. And Revelation is actually quoting from Daniel that says, as for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them. He shall be different from the former ones, he shall put down 3 kings. Guys, this is what I just read. Daniel gives us the exact 3 nations that are put down. Listen to this. Daniel describes a king who puts down and becomes the ruler of Egypt, Libya, and the Cushites. Meaning the Antichrist will put down the 3 nations of Libya, Egypt, and Sudan. Which means the beast that rises up under the authority of the Antichrist.
Three verses aren't in my Bible. I need answers.
Finally, an honest Christian telling the truth. That's what's up. Okay, I got my King James Version, and all 3 verses that she named are in this Bible. She mentioned Matthew chapter 17, verse 21. It is in my Bible. She mentioned Matthew 18:11. It is in my Bible. Oh, looky there, Son of Man, not Son of God. And last but not least, we got Matthew 23:14. It is in my Bible. I have been Christian my entire life until I was 25 years old, and I discovered Islam after so many years of praying to the Father to guide me in the name of Jesus. Islam is the truth. Read the Holy Quran that was sent to the final prophet. Jesus is not the Son of God. This book has been corrupted. Come on, Christians, it's time to say your Shahada. I bear witness.
That's why a lot of people are saying this is the age of awakening. We'll ban Islam and Christianity in this country.
You said you were a Muslim.
Yes.
We should ban your own people.
Speaking the truth against your own religion has nothing to do with atheism or evil. These Arabians were those who enslaved our forefathers. They even castrated them.
Like he said, it's the age of awakening. So much is going on the continent. So much is going on TikTok. We are seeing a lot of pushback when it comes to these Abrahamic religions. So I did a video some months back talking about specifically Christianity and how Africans are moving away from it. But right now we're going to be talking about Islam and how the exact same thing is happening. We're seeing people coming out talking about how they are living the faith. Slowly, Africans are beginning to awaken to new realizations. They are deconstructing and decolonizing their minds, and the scales that have been covering their eyes are falling off, so now they now see things differently. We are seeing a call for cultural revolution. It's as if someone somewhere just snapped their fingers and now people are waking up left, right, center. Africans are now coming to a new realization of who they are, and they are not keeping quiet about it. They are fearlessly questioning everything and critically looking into their history, and now coming into the realization that these religions played a major role in their history as they were used as a tool to colonize, enslave, subjugate, and subdue the African people. Now, this brother on the screen is a Ghanaian, and he was once a Muslim. He said a lot of interesting things in this video. Let's roll the clip. I'll meet you guys at the end.
So that Jesus story was copied from Egypt.
So Jesus, what was Jesus?
Jesus, there was nobody called Jesus. They said Abdul Latif, but they call me Nana Prodi. Yes, we were born into Islam, so we're given these names. They said we are God's children. We fear God the most. So they should pass through religion and tell us that Allah was spirituality, so we shouldn't dive into spirituality as Muslims. Then through Christianity, they told our Christian brothers and sisters that our idols are blasphemous, so we should throw them away. But they are grossly engaged in them. When you go to Arabia, they've entered in the covenant with Allah, and they have coerced the whole of Arabia to worship that Allah. This was done by one King Saul. He fought the other tribes and then composed them in a country called Saudi Arabia. So all Muslims, including me in Africa, we are worshiping the Arabian God. And all Christians in Africa are worshiping the European God, who is Jesus. The Arabian God is Allah, and the European God is Jesus. So let me complete the Pharaoh Akhenaten story. So he created that sort of monotheism. He combined two gods' names, Amun, Ra. Amun at the time was the most powerful god. So he created monotheism even before any Abraham was born. And they worship that deity as their creator god. And they even named their children after Amun. When Muslims and Christians pray, they say Amen. That is their name. Ancient Arabia called God Imani. Libya, Syria, they also call it Iman. So when you conjure the spirit, you have to give the spirit your name. So somebody who is mischievous, who wants to teach you how to conjure the spirit, will not disclose this secret to you. Then the person will tell you that spirit is called this, like Allah. So anything you do in the name of that Allah, the spirit will bless that person. Anybody who gave that spirit the name Allah.
You mentioned it, you become a slave to that person,
Good.
and that spirit become powerful for that person.
But,
who gave it that name?
You gave him that name.
Because you are calling that name in the person's name.
Go, you are calling the spirit through the person. So we all Muslims on the African continent who are slaughtering livestock or animals in the name of Allah are actually.
Your child may not have what they need to live a well-developed life without.
Still, I agree with you wholeheartedly. What I say is ban the black man. They steal, they kill, worse than any pit bull could, and they get away with it. Ban those that are making the laws. Ban Ekreleni. Ban the black man. Get all the black women and cut out their uteruses and their ovaries that they cannot procreate, because they will all turn out the same, because they are all the same. I'm very passionate about this. Ban them. Kill them. Shoot them. Get rid of them, because they are the problem.
Aknet release. Akne one on jazz. On Milkas and if me one. Ayayan. Ni wiganit. Ije hele lo sochu. Man wika we take on the hispan. Ayer. We in definite take. Tomawa quote ni kikulowa. Yan wika tretage. Ayer. On kan na Milkas. In keman on ninkan ni jazz na wika machio. Nikja quantia sin tlaltipa. Inon nimis no yon, san kayenika. Yawanda yan kuya no namekoka. Nimis yun no tenjo. Ayo. Ni choka. Jani kiftowa. Aya. Ni nota no yolo. Manikita iwikan el wayo. Aya. Manikita laki. Aya. Manika tlaltipa kinamichingo.
not pit bulls, not animals. Animals are beautiful and they deserve a warm bed, food, love, and attention, and everything else. God created those animals. Who created the black man? Do you think God? I don't think so.
What you just listened to was a voice message from a group chat. This woman named Belinda Magor, a white South African, had made this comment supposedly in defense of pit bulls. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pit bulls. Apparently, there's been numerous deadly maulings by pit bulls, so in the defense of pit bulls, she said all of that. This is what happens when racism flows through your veins and you just cannot help the hate that lives within you. Like, she could have defended the pit bulls all she wanted, but she saw this as an opportunity to be racist towards black people, bringing them up in a conversation that had nothing to do with them. The topic was pit bulls. What does that have to do with black people? Black people literally live in their minds rent-free. How do they even live carrying around with them so much hate? Like, she obviously has been desperately waiting for the opportunity to get this off her chest. So when this pit bull situation came up, she was like, yeah, this is the time. And the irony of this whole thing is that she's a white South African. Given the history of that country and all the heinous things that they did to black people, the owner of that land, she has the audacity to come out talking about how they are the violent ones. You've got
Total Battle. Play now for free.
Welcome to Flatiron School. This is where you learn how the future works, where the whole point of education is to get you a job in a career you love. At Flatiron, you can graduate in as little as 4 months, not 4 years. The school of the future is finally here. Flatiron School. Change things.
The 25th of March was, as usual, commemorated as the day Britain officially abolished its slave trade in 1807. But how many recall that Arab slavers were the first and last in modern times to ship millions of Africans out of the continent as slaves? The Arab history of anti-black racism predates European anti-black racism by several centuries. The early Islamic Empire exhibited all the characteristics of anti-black racism, and blacks suffered the lowest form of bondage. Europeans took photographs of chained black African slaves in Arab slave trading vessels on the east coast of Africa in the 1880s. Slavery persisted openly in Saudi Arabia and other Muslim countries in the latter half of the 20th century, 100 years after slavery was abolished in the United States. As late as the 1960s, African Muslims still sold slaves when they arrived on pilgrimages, as a way to finance their pilgrimages. Arab nations lagged far behind the rest of the world in abolishing slavery. Saudi Arabia and Yemen in 1962, United Arab Emirates in 1963, Oman in 1970. However, unlike the rest of the Arab nations, hereditary racial slavery persists in Mauritania, despite multiple official attempts to abolish it. In 1981, by presidential decree, Mauritania became the last country in the world to abolish slavery, but no criminal laws were passed to enforce the ban. Under international pressure in 2007, the Mauritanian government passed a law allowing slaveholders to be persecuted. However, that law has rarely been enforced. Far more anti-slavery human rights activists have been prosecuted than the handful of Mauritanian white masters. In addition, slavers are offered compensation for freeing the enslaved, while the victims of the brutality are offered nothing. In 2015, under international and some domestic mobilization pressure, the Mauritanian government created 3 special courts to prosecute slavery, but so far they have only tried very few cases. However, that's just not all about this oddly unique sect of slavers. The Arab slavers, at some point in history driven outrageously by their odd ambition for economic power and human control, had their African male captives subjected to unimaginable suffering and exploitation. Castration. Yes, you heard correctly. Now, it is of utmost importance to note that what you are about to hear might seem like comparing which, between 2 evils, is better. It does not detract from the fact that the trade in human beings was unspeakably hideous. In the Americas, slaves were allowed to marry, though their children could be sold off like puppies right before their eyes. But what happened to the blacks enslaved by the Arabs? Arabs castrated African slaves. Thus, they could not reproduce their kinds to multiply and replenish the earth. Welcome to yet another video segment. In this video, we are taking a dive at one of the darkest chapters in the human history, marked by its profound brutality and stomach-twisting inhumanity, the Arab slave trade and the castration of their male captives during this dark era. Before we get right into this head-spinning narrative, don't forget to like this video as a way of acknowledging our efforts, share with family and friends to keep spreading our eye-opening black narrative, and subscribe to keep the channel growing. Your support means a lot to us. The castration of male captives during the Arab slave trade would be a forever-lasting, devastating experience for the individuals who were subjected to this depraved, inhuman practice and their families. In his book, Slaves and Slavery, published in 1998, the British writer Duncan Clark defines slavery as the reduction of fellow human beings to the legal status of chattels, allowing them to be bought and sold as goods. This, in essence, is what both the Arabs and Europeans did to Africans, to justify the shipping of millions of Africans as slaves to faraway lands in Asia, in particular the Middle East, and the Americas. The African slave trade, surely one of the most tragic and disturbing episodes in the history of mankind, Clark uncovers in his book, had its origins in the intervention of forces from the civilizations that developed in the regions of the Mediterranean Sea, today's Europe and the Middle East, into the arena of the more fragmented civilizations of sub-Saharan Africa. Africa became a source of slaves for the cultures of the Mediterranean world many centuries before the discovery of the Americas, but it was that discovery and the resulting shift in focus towards the Atlantic that prompted the culminating explosive growth in slavery with such tragic effect. Slavery was, in fact, a central feature of life in the Mediterranean world, especially in Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, Greece, Imperial Rome, and the Islamic societies of the Middle East and North Africa. The most important source of slaves in medieval Europe, Clark's research shows, was the coast of Bosnia on the eastern shores of the Adriatic Sea. The word slave and its cognates in most modern European languages is itself derived from Sclavis's meaning Slav, the ethnic name for the inhabitants of this region. For various reasons, including the harshness of the terrain and endemic warfare among local clans, Bosnia proved the most convenient and long-lasting of these slave-supplying regions. Whichever clan gained a temporary upper hand was always willing to sell its captured rivals in exchange for the goods of the Mediterranean world in the markets of the ancient Romanized city of Ragusa, that is, present-day Dubrovnik. From there, Slavs were shipped as slaves by Venetian merchants to supply new markets in the Islamic world. Thus, for the Islamic world, Clark further reveals, Slavs provided the major source of slaves in the 250 or so years between the defeat at the Battle of Poitiers in AD 732 that forced the consolidation of their dramatic conquests across North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula, cutting back the flow of war captives, and the expansion of the import of black Africans across the Sahara from around AD 1000. The number of people enslaved by Muslims has been a hotly debated topic, especially when the millions of Africans forced from their homelands are considered. With full control of a great part of Africa, the Arabs began to capture young boys and girls and took them to Egypt, where they were sold into slavery within Africa or taken across the Indian Ocean to Indonesia, China, Southwest Asia, and India. By the 10th century, the demand for slaves from Africa to work as plantation hands, sex slaves, domestic maids, and slave warriors had increased greatly, so much so that an estimated number of 5,000 slaves were shipped out of Africa a year. The historian Paul Lovejoy estimates that some 9.85 million Africans were shipped out as slaves to Arabia, and in small numbers to the Indian subcontinent. Lovejoy breaks his figures down as follows. Between AD 650 and 1600, an average of 5,000 Africans were shipped out per annum by the Arabs. This makes a rough total of 7.25 million. Then, between 1600 and 1800, another 1.4 million Africans were shipped out by the Arabs. The 19th century represented the highest point of the Arabian trade, as 12,000 Africans were vehemently shipped out per annum. The total figure for the 19th century alone was 1.2 million slaves to Arabia. Some other historians estimate altogether that between AD 650 and 1900, 10 million to 20 million people were enslaved by Arab slave traders. Others believe that over 20 million enslaved Africans alone had been delivered through the trans-Saharan route alone to the Islamic world. Dr. John Alambella Azuma estimates in his 2001 book, The Legacy of Arab Islam in Africa, that over 80 million more black people died over that route. The Arab slave trade was so intense, bloody, merciless to say the least. The cruelty on African captives by the Arabs was beyond telling. Similar to the transatlantic slave trade, captured slaves were beaten to be weakened and chained together. However, captured victims in the sub-Saharan slave trade had to endure several weeks of walking through the desert, carrying loads for their new masters from West or East Africa, to where they were eventually sold in the slave markets: Cairo, Baghdad, Istanbul, Mecca, and other centers. These slaves played various roles in the economy of the Muslim world. They were used as servants, harem keepers, laborers in fields, mines, and hydraulic yards, and as cannon fodder in armies. In several of his detailed books about the slave trade, British explorer Henry Hamilton Johnston explains how several slaves died in the desert, while others who fell sick or were badly bruised and could not make it were brutally killed by their masters. David Livingstone, the British missionary, traveler, and explorer, was so upset by the way the Arabs treated their African slaves that he wrote back home in the year 1870. These were his words: "In less than I take to talk about it, these unfortunate creatures, 84 of them, wended their way into the village where we were. Some of them, the eldest, were women from 20 to 22 years of age, and there were youths from 18 to 19 years. But the large majority was made up of boys and girls from 7 years to 14 or 15 years of age. A more terrible scene than these men, women, and children I do not think I ever came across. To say that they were emaciated would not give you an idea of what human beings can undergo under certain circumstances. Each of them had his neck in a large forked stick weighing from 30 to 40 pounds and 5 or 6 feet long, cut with a fork at the end of it where the branches of a tree spread out. The women were tethered with bark thongs, which are of all things the most cruel to be tied with. Of course, the bark thongs are soft and supple when first stripped off the trees, but a few hours in the sun would make them about as hard as the iron-round packing cases. The little children were fastened by thongs to their mothers. As we passed along the path through which these slaves had traveled, I was shown a spot in the bushes where a poor woman the day before, unable to keep up with the march and most likely to hinder it, was cut down by the axe of one of these slave drivers. We went on further and were shown a place where a child lay. It had been recently born, and its mother was unable to carry it from debility and exhaustion. So the slave trader had taken this little infant by its feet and dashed its brains out against one of the trees and thrown it in there. Such was the brutality meted out to the Africans by the Arabs. Looking at all this in a very factly honest manner, the totality of the unthinkable, horrid practices besetted upon a certain group of people. Historians agree that it is a mistake to equate the bare survival of Africa with cultural or social or economic stagnation, for the slave trade visited such panoply of tragically interconnected disasters into the lives of every African for centuries, so that they have worked their way into the very racial memory of the continent and its people, particularly females, that only with time and kindness can it be expunged from the psyche of Africa. The Arabs' treatment of black Africans can aptly be termed an African genocide. Arabs killed more Africans in transit, especially when crossing the Sahara Desert, than Europeans and Americans combined, and over more centuries, both before and after the years of the Atlantic slave trade. Arab Muslims began extracting millions of black African slaves centuries before Christian nations did. Arab slave traders removed slaves from Africa for about 13 centuries, compared to the 3 centuries of the Atlantic slave trade. African slaves transported by Arabs across the Sahara Desert died more often than slaves making the middle passage to the New World by ship. Slaves invariably died within 5 years if they worked in the Ottoman Empire's Sahara salt mines. Black Africans did not enjoy immunity to many of the diseases found in the Arab world, which also resulted in high death rates. In West Africa, the Arab slave trade encompassed a vast region from the Niger Valley to the Gulf of Guinea. This traffic followed the trans-Saharan roads. The crossing could last up to 3 months with a high mortality rate due to the dire conditions of the trip. Here is the testimony of the German explorer Gustav Nachtigall. The poor children of the black countries seemed to meet death here, at the last stage of a long, hopeless, and painful journey. The long journey accomplished with insufficient food and scarce water, the contrast between the rich natural resources and the humid atmosphere of their homeland, and the dry and anemic air of the desert, the fatigue and the privations imposed by their masters and by the circumstances in which they find themselves, all this has gradually ruined their young strengths. The memory of their homeland that has disappeared along the way, their fear of an unknown future, the endless journey under the blows, hunger, thirst, and deadly exhaustion have paralyzed their last faculties of resistance. If the poor creatures lack strength to get up and walk again, they are simply abandoned, and their minds slowly fade under the destructive effect of the rays of the sun, hunger, and thirst. According to the work of some historians, the Arab slave trade has affected more than 17 million people. In the Saharan region alone, more than 9 million African captives were deported and 2 million died on the roads. This despicable phenomenon was legitimized by Islam, as Christianity would later condone the transatlantic slave trade. For example, the Tunisian Arab historian Ibn Khaldun, from 1332 to 1406, wrote that the only peoples to accept slavery are the Negroes because of their lower degree of humanity, their place being closer to the animal stage. Another one, the Algerian Arab theologian Ahmed al-Wancharisi, from 1430/1431 to 1508, offered legal and religious recommendations. This, he said, "I have been asked about slaves from the land of Abyssinia who profess monotheism and accept the rules of the Holy Law. Is it legal or not to buy and sell them? If their conversion to Islam comes after the establishment of a property right on these slaves, then Islam does not demand liberation, because slavery was caused by unbelief. The state of servitude persists after the disappearance of unbelief because of its existence in the past." The Arab slave trade was characterized by appalling violence, rape, and worst of all, castration of black male slaves. While African women and girls were targeted, captured, and deported by Arab slavers for use as sex slaves, the male captives were, on the other hand, pitilessly castrated to prevent them from reproducing and becoming a stock. Castration of male slaves became a habit among slave traders due to the fact that they were in higher demand, stronger, noted to work faster and more efficiently, and were not a threat to slave masters and owners who feared that their wives, concubines, and female slaves would have affairs with them. The suffering inflicted on the victims of castration was profound, encompassing physical and psychological trauma. Castration was done to boys between the ages of 9 and 12, as it was believed that they survived the process more than an adult or adolescent. Although very many did not survive the process, as they often died during or after the harrowing operation. Whites died more, so slavers concentrated more on blacks. This was the darkest chapter in history that highlights the extent to which humans were dehumanized and exploited for gain. Here's a more detailed insight into this practice. 1. Economic factors. One of the primary reasons for castrating male captives was economic. The exporting countries had good economic incentives to castrate male slaves before they were shipped off. In the medieval slaving industry that was designed for exporting Slavic prisoners of war to the Arab world, castrating the slaves was an integral part of the process. Castration was then performed in the famous castration houses in Venice. Eunuchs, or castrated male slaves, were highly sought after due to their perceived trustworthiness and reliability. Eunuchs were considered valuable commodities in Arab societies, thus fetching much higher prices in slave markets compared to non-castrated slaves. Their lack of reproductive capability meant that they could serve in positions of trust and authority without posing a threat to the owner's hereditary wealth and power. Eunuchs were often employed in sensitive positions such as harem guards, administrative posts, and as servants in elite households. They served in influential positions in the Abbasid Caliphate's administration, with some even rising to the rank of vizier. The economic incentives gained by slave traders from exporting black eunuchs to the Arab nations encouraged the practice of castration. In some cases, such as the Zanj Rebellion in the 9th century Iraq, castrated slaves were sought after to work in dangerous and demanding environments like salt mines. This practice had persisted for centuries in the Arab slave trade. As late as 1903, there were still 194 African eunuchs in service to the Ottoman ruling family. 2. Control and domination. Castration was employed by Arab slavers as a means of exerting control and dominance over their male captives. By removing their ability to procreate, the slavers aimed to eliminate any potential threats of rebellion or the establishment of rival lineages. Additionally, castration was intended to ensure that these slaves would remain solely devoted to their master's demands without the distractions of family or personal attachments. 3. Social dislocation. Enslaved males who were castrated were forcibly removed from their communities and families. This social dislocation had far-reaching consequences as it disrupted the social fabric of African societies and led to imbalanced gender ratios. In regions where castration was prevalent, such as East Africa and the Sudan, entire villages were affected as young men were captured and subjected to this brutal practice. Many eunuchs who served in the harem of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul remained in servitude for life, isolated from their African roots. Their roles as loyal servants or guards sometimes meant they were isolated from their own cultural backgrounds and communities for life. Young boys were captured and castrated so that when they grew up, they could serve as eunuchs in harems. This slave ship was photographed in 1896. This large group of young boys may have been destined for castration to serve as eunuchs. The slaves in the photograph were headed to a Muslim country well after the American Civil War. In fact, slavery in the United States was a good bit more humane than slavery in the Arab world. It was bloody for Africans, bloody beyond words. In some cases, African societies would engage in castration as a preemptive measure to protect their youth from being captured and castrated by Arab slave traders. This reflects the deep fear and trauma associated with this practice. 4. Psychological and physical trauma. Castration was itself a traumatic experience, both physically and psychologically, for those subjected to it. The surgery itself was often performed without anesthesia under crude and unhygienic conditions, leading to excruciating pain and a high risk of infection. Many African boys did not survive their castration surgery. 6 out of every 10 people who were mutilated died from their wounds in castration centers. This is a prime reason why there are not many communities of blacks living in the non-African Muslim world today, despite the millions of black African slaves who were sold into the Muslim world. Castration led to hormonal imbalances on survivors, affecting the physical development and health of victims. Without testosterone, eunuchs often suffered from various health issues such as decreased muscle mass, fatigue, obesity, osteoporosis, and a lack of secondary sexual characteristics. 5. Cultural and religious beliefs. Some societies believed that castrated individuals were spiritually purer and more suitable for certain religious duties. For instance, in some Islamic societies, eunuchs were considered more appropriate for guarding holy sites. The guardianship of the Holy Kaaba in Mecca included the use of African eunuchs. Some men were castrated to be eunuchs in domestic service, and the practice of neutering male slaves was not limited to only black males. The Khalifa in Baghdad at the beginning of the 10th century had 7,000 black eunuchs and 4,000 white eunuchs in his palace, writes author Ronald Siegel in his 2002 book Islam's Black Slaves, The Other Black Diaspora. In the Arab world, demand for castrated slaves was so high that even with the appalling death rate from the procedure, it was still profitable, which explains why there is no large African diaspora community in Arab countries. Castrated men don't father children. The Arab slave trade had a tragic impact on the evolution of African societies. Some areas were completely devastated and depopulated. Welsh explorer Henry Morton Stanley, from 1841 to 1904, was a horrified witness of this traffic. He wrote that after the depredations of the Arab traffickers, the black blood flows toward the north, the equator smells corpses. As one commentator puts it, could it be true that the corrosive effects of 4 centuries of commerce in humans, with its temptation, its inbuilt opportunism, its reduction of humans to a cash value, its cycles of revenge, and its inevitable physical brutality, have built lasting flaws into the African pattern of thought and action? The United Nations has made March 23 the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade, and UNESCO has made August 23 the International Day for the Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its abolition. When will there be an International Day to commemorate the victims of the Arab-Muslim slave trade? When will an international research program address this subject? When will a project be implemented to identify, restore, and publicize the sites and monuments linked to this Arab trade, like the existing projects concerning the transatlantic trade? When will educational material be produced and cultural and artistic programs conducted to raise awareness of this criminal activity? When will a museum on the Arab-Muslim slave trade be established? This brings us to the end of this video segment. And did you happen to learn a thing or two? If so, then don't forget to like the video, share with your families and friends, and subscribe to keep the channel growing. Thank you for watching.
Aknet release. Akne one on jazz. On Mishkas and if me one. Ayaya. Nikwikanit. Ije hele la shochu. Mankwika we take on the Ishpan. Aya. We definitely take it. Tomawa kwauch nikikulawa. Yankwika twitech. Aya. Onkan namistas. Inkeman oninkan nijes nakwika Nikja kwautia sin tlaltikpak. Inon nimis no yon. Sankayenika. Yawalda yankuya non namikoka. Nimis ino tentio. Ayu. Nichoka. Janikiftua. Aya. Niknotsa no yolmo. Manikita iwikan el huayo. Aya. Manikata laki. Aya. Maikata tikpak kinamachimo.
wilis. Aknewan unjas. Onnika sanitniwan. Nunkuikawiteki on teispa. Tomawa kwawitlikihkuilowa.
Hello my viewers and welcome back to my channel. Subscribe, like and share your comments in the comment section down below. Now in today's video we take a look into a topic that has sparked widespread discussion and controversy. Just a few days ago, Russian President Vladimir Putin made headlines by unveiling a video that purportedly reveals Jesus as black. Now if you missed that video, check through my videos, you will find it. But this revelation, stemming from a vote in Russia, challenges long-held beliefs and raises questions about the authenticity of canonical Bible narratives.
In just a few moments, Vladimir Putin is going to reveal to his military hierarchy that Jesus was a black man.